1993 is a part of a larger series called The Builders. What first drew me into the piece was the style of this painting. When walking around the gallery, a lot of the works were very contemporary, but this piece seems more timeless by blending a lot of cultures and techniques from Cubist aspects to Renaissance to East Asian influences. However, the piece still maintains an individuality that makes it unique and has a modern flair to it. That was a lot of the reason why I chose this piece. I really liked the contrast between modern and contemporary ideas, and then older and more traditional styles. The piece depicts a man slumped at the head of a table with his tools strewn about the room and his two children sitting beside him as a mother figure stands over them all. Jacob Lawrence, the painter of this work, grew up in Harlem during the Great Depression, which has influenced the style of his and themes of his work majorly. Most of his work contains underlying messages about the African American experience. For example, the Builders series touches on labor in the African American community and the skill, ingenuity, and hard work of African Americans. The first work of the series appears in the 1940s and made a reappearance in the 1960s and 1990s, becoming a major focus for Lawrence's work. Upon first glance at the Builders family, the viewer is presented with a colorful domestic scene. However, upon closer inspection, the viewer sees a tired father whose tools are scattered about the table and floor, a concerned mother, and a city out the window. What looks like a simple family dinner is actually a complex and thoughtful arrangement of subjects and objects that convey a message. Moreover, the piece serves as a statement on household roles and labor, more specifically the composition, geometric nature, and color, as well as the drastic angles and perspective of the painting all play into the artist's underlying intent to broaden the definition of labor and explore the different kinds of labor in the world. The composition of this work may seem unintentional to some observers, but the placement of the subjects and objects in the painting play an integral part in understanding the underlying message of this piece. When first looking at it, the viewer is initially drawn to the table in the foreground. It looks like a traditional scene with the mother standing over the table, presumably serving the rest of the family, the father at the head of the table, and the children eating on either side. This arrangement creates a pyramidal scheme, with the laboring father on a plane above everyone else, the mother figure looking over the table, and the two children sitting on an even plane with each other. Lawrence intentionally created this pyramid scheme to outline the traditional American family dynamic, where the father is the main worker of the family and the mother serves as a homemaker and cares for their children. Additionally, the body language of the subjects also contributes to this dynamic. The father, who is slumped over the table reaching for the food in the middle, seems as if he has had a long day and can barely keep his head up, implying that he is the breadwinner for the family. Furthermore, by orienting the mother standing over the table with a rag and a dish in her hand, Lawrence is showing her role in the family. Lawrence's choice to position her standing while everyone else is sitting and eating symbolizes the message Lawrence is trying to convey, that not all labor is manual, and while the workday may be finished, the work of a mother is never done. Another striking aspect of the painting is the sharp lines and geometric nature. The way Lawrence plays with lines makes the painting appear very two-dimensional in nature, a common technique in Lawrence's paintings and the Builders series especially. The painting consists of almost entirely geometrical and unmodulated shapes aside from the subjects. Due to this, depth is only created by color and sharp lines, which allude to the influence of Cubism on his work. The way the bodies of the subjects are formed also have a Cubist nature, since it is slightly difficult to discover where the body ends and where a new object starts. Moreover, color plays a role in this, as often the colors of the figure's faces, arms, and clothing dissolve into the background of a similar color. For instance, the color of the subject's skin blends in with the carpet behind them, which creates two-dimensionality in the piece. Another prime example of the melding of geometric shapes and color is shown in the windows. The inside of the windowsill is a lighter shade of green than the walls inside. This may suggest that the light is shining into the room and helps to create depth to the painting and move away from the two-dimensionality of the foreground. Upon closer inspection of the windows, the viewer can see outlines of buildings in the distance indicating the family lives in a high-rise building. The viewer can then infer that the family lives in a city, which alludes to their class. Class is an important element in a lot of Lawrence's works, especially the Builders series, because a lot of his mission as an artist is to comment on African Americans and their families and where they fall in society. Another allusion to Lawrence's inspiration is in the angles and perspective of the work. The vertical aspect of the painting tilts the viewer's perspective to a higher angle, creating the feeling that the viewer is on the outside looking in. This perspective and style is called a tilted ground plane and can be found in Chinese, Japanese, and Southeast Asian art, as well as pieces from the Renaissance period. The high angle, sharp lines, as well as the depth created in the painting, all reference Lawrence's early art education growing up in Harlem and having the luxury of going to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where he had access to different forms and perspectives. This tilted ground plane uses sharp angles and depth to realistically portray the room despite the cubist aspects in color and shape. It produces an effect that elongates the room, making it appear three-dimensional in the background, even though the foreground of the painting is more two-dimensional. These aspects are important to understanding the painting as they show the artist's way of blending Renaissance-like perspective with Cubist style, which tells the viewer about the artist's background and makes the painting more conceivable to the eye. The painting The Builder's Family is unique to the Builders series in many ways, however most notably in Lawrence's exploration into labor and how it is defined. In most of the other paintings in the series, African Americans are depicted doing construction work or carpentry, but The Builder's Family provides an example of what home life is like after a long day at work. This is where the importance of the composition of the work comes into play. The strategic placement of subjects in their body language depicts the type of work Lawrence is trying to highlight: a mother's work. He is commenting on the fact that while the father may be the one bringing in money to support the family, the mother is the true backbone. This, along with subtle allusions to class and perspective, highlight that underlying message. Labor is not limited to manual work, and we often neglect the importance of work that others do. This piece and its message speaks to the mission of the Call Response exhibition by shining light on the unsung heroes in the art world and beyond. Firstly, the piece explores different types of work in the form of a mother's work. The artist wanted to expose a role that we often overlook and honor and recognize the work that is done in that role. Often because mothers are occupied with childcare and upkeep of a home, they are not seen as major contributors financially to a household. But in this piece, Lawrence is recognizing that a mother works the most hours for the least appreciation. Second, just by showing this artist's work is fulfilling the mission of the exhibition. Black artists do not get as much recognition as white artists, and by showing Lawrence's work, the exhibition is evolving and is recognizing what needs to be improved in the art world.